So, English comprehension, we've got another poem comprehension here. London by William Blake, 1794. Okay, I wander through each charted street, near where charted Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet, marks of weakness, marks of woe. Okay, so this is very old English. It can be quite difficult to understand, but if you keep calm, let's say it comes up during an exam, keep calm, try and understand some of the words that you can, because some of them are similar to normal English, and then you can decipher what's going on. So let's go ahead. I wander. So you should know that wander is sort of walking or wandering around somewhere, right? Through each charted street. So this is something like through, right? Each charted street. So through a street, and charted just seems to be a way of describing that street, which is an adjective. Near where the charted Thames does flow, so you should know this is the Thames River, and basically the river is flowing, right? And again, it's describing the Thames as charted. And mark in every face I meet, so there is a mark in every face that I meet, probably random strangers walking across the road, right? Okay, marks of weakness, marks of woe. Okay, so this is what the marks are about, right? It's describing the mark. So the mark is of weakness or of woe. So woe is a similar word to weakness, yeah, I mean, sort of like sadness is a good way to describe it, but you can sort of infer what it means. In every cry of every man. So again, it's saying that each man is basically crying in a sense. In every infant's cry of fear. So it's saying the infants, which are basically children, crying in fear as well. In every voice, in every ban. Alright, so you have to start and think, like, what are they saying when they mean in every? Like, what is actually in every, right? It's probably talking about the marks, right? The marks of weakness, right, is in every cry of every man. It's in every infant's cry. It's in every voice. It's in every ban. I'm not sure what ban means, but that doesn't really matter in this case. The mind-forged manacles I hear. Okay, so now this is a very complex word. Most of you won't know what this means. You won't even know what manacles mean either. But you know what hear means, right? And that means they're hearing something. So this is likely a sound, right? Whatever this word is, or this phrase, it's a sound because he's hearing it, okay? And you can infer again what that sound might be. It's probably some sort of sad sound, because that's what the poem is about so far. Okay, how the chimney sweepers cry. So chimney sweepers are exactly what they say they are, people that are sweeping chimneys, and they're crying, right? And these are usually kids, if you know anything about old England, right? Every blackening church appalls. Okay, so this is talking about churches. And again, if we continue, and hapless soldiers sigh. So you know what soldiers are, and you know what sighing is. So again, these soldiers are sighing. Hapless is another way of sort of saying hopeless, right? Runs in blood down palace walls. So it's saying that there is blood running down palace walls. Now let's try and understand what's going on here. So again, it's talking about the chimney sweepers that are crying. It's talking about the church sort of being bad, in a sense, in the easiest way to describe it. It's saying the soldiers are sighing and blood is running down the walls. So these are likely metaphors. There's probably not actual blood running down the palace walls. Let's continue. But most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlots curse. Okay, so through midnight streets. So again, it's talking about a sound of midnight streets. How youthful harlots curse. So again, this is talking about youthful. You should know that means like sort of young. You don't particularly need to know what harlots mean in this case either. Just know that it's a type of person there. Obviously, if it's describing someone as youthful, it's probably a person. And again, it's saying that they're cursing. That means that they're sort of saying bad words, right? Or sort of cursing someone. It means, let's say you say something bad or insult someone, right? Similar idea there. Okay, blasts a newborn infant's tear. So it's saying the curse, I think, or like the insult is sort of blasting the tear. So again, that's sort of like an image there that you can think of. And blights with plagues the marriage hearse. Okay, blights with plagues the marriage hearse. Yeah, so this is a very, very complex line, and again, most of you initially won't understand this, but let's skip that for now and see what the questions are actually asking us, and then get back to that. Maybe we can understand it from some of the questions. Okay, what does the word chartered most likely mean in the context of the poem? Okay, so we already saw this. You likely won't know what it means immediately because you've never seen a word like that, but you know it's used to describe the street, and it's also used to describe the Thames. So what sort of adjective in these can we put into these ones? Well, let's see which one makes the most sense here. So ancient seems to work here. Dangerous street and dangerous Thames doesn't seem to work the best. Crowded street, crowded Thames, that could work. Enchanted street, that is, I think, is a bit too over the top. And then mapped street or regulated street, right? That again could work. Now what we've got here is you can sort of look at the root of the word maybe, and then you can sort of decipher what it might mean. So a charter, right? Or even just like a chart, right? If you think of a chart, it's similar, it's something like a similar thing to a map, right? Some sort of diagram that is showing some information, right? And from that you can sort of come to a conclusion that charted or chartered might have been an Old English way of saying something is mapped, and yeah, sort of mapped out, right? So a charted street will be a mapped out street, the mapped out Thames, right? That would be the answer there, so the answer would be B. Okay, again, sometimes you might end up cancelling these two out and having an educated guess and choosing like C or E. That's completely fine. I mean, in some of these cases, if you just don't know the word, it can be difficult to actually get it right. But again, cancelling these out, leaves you with a 30% chance of getting it right when you guess. If you didn't know what that meant, just keep it in your mind for next time. Maybe write it down. Question 2: what does the phrase "mind-forged manacles" most likely refer to? Okay, so we saw that again here. Mind-forged manacles. We knew that it was a sound, right, that they're talking about here, because he's hearing that. Now what we've got here are some options. So it says literal chains, mental restrictions, unbreakable promises, forged weapons, artistic creations. Okay, now if you know again this sort of root word of manacles, right, you'll know that manacles is a form of chain, right? If you're wearing manacles, you're chained, right? So you've got a few options here that will already look quite promising. So weapons doesn't seem to match, creations doesn't seem to match. So literal chains, this is an interesting one. If they're hearing this, right, and it's saying they're mind forged, that would sort of indicate they're sort of mental, right? They're forged in the mind. It's unlikely that they are literal chains. They're probably some sort of metaphor, right? Again, if you look at it one by one, mind forged, so chains or manacles that are forged by the mind, sort of mental restrictions that I hear, that would make the most sense. And then you might think, how can you hear mental restrictions? Well, it's more of a metaphor in that case, because you can't hear mental restrictions, but that's sort of what the gist of this is. And yeah, I mean, promises doesn't really match with that either, and you should actually get left with mental restrictions as the one from process of elimination as well. Again, if you understand what manacles means, and you also understand what mind forged means, so forged by the mind. So these are quite difficult questions here, but these are useful if you really understand what's going on and how you can dissect these questions. And if you're getting these questions right, most other students are definitely not getting these questions right. So these are putting you up a point against everyone else. Okay, the phrase mind-forged manacles is an example of. So again, we sort of went over this just a second ago. So these are mental restrictions, right, or mental chains that they are hearing, right? And you can't actually hear these things. These are much more likely to be a metaphor. It's not a simile because it doesn't say anything like or as. That's the signature sign of a simile. And none of the rest match here. Personification, it's not really making anything human-like. Hyperbole, it's not really exaggerating anything here, because this, again, is not something that could actually exist in real life. It's not something you could be hearing in real life. So it can't be an exaggeration of something that already exists. Alliteration, it is actually close here, because the M and the M are close to each other here. So I think actually you could get the mark for alliteration. So yeah, if you put that, that is okay. We'll probably change the mark scheme to say B or E. But again, metaphor is the strongest one here, because it definitely is a metaphor. But yeah, there is an M and there is an M here, so that could be alliteration as well. Question 4, the description. Every blackening church employs what literary device? So if you think about appall, right? If something is appalling, then it's like really nasty. You don't really like it. And if you're going to use appalls as a verb, it means, again, it's sort of earing away from something, like looking at something and seeing it's nasty and having a reaction to that, right? So every blackening church, sort of, I think that's self-explanatory. It's something that is blackening, turning black, right? Church appalls. Which literary device is that using? Well, if one of the options here had metaphor here, that would work, because the church can't actually appall, right? But that's not one of the options here, so it's actually asking you to look for something else. Now, this is a very difficult one again, and it's quite finicky, but hopefully this is useful for if something like this comes up in the exam. So when you've got two sort of opposing things here, like blackening and church, so church is signified by sort of white and purity, right? And blackening is the opposite of that. That's a form of irony. Or, it's hard to say oxymoron, because it isn't actually saying black and white, right? What it's actually doing here, this is a very difficult question, but what it's actually doing here is sort of showing the irony of a church being black or blackening, right? So that would be the answer there. Hopefully your English teacher is able to explain this in better terms. And it is, again, a very difficult question to be getting in the 11 plus. But if you're able to sort of understand the logic here and you're able to apply it in your actual exam, that is a good sign. So yeah, similar idea here. It's the symbolism of the church, right? The church is white, it's pure, and the poet is saying that it's blackening, the blackening church. That is irony. Okay, question 5. What was the overall mood conveyed by the poem? So this should be a good one. You should be able to understand this from everything I explained earlier. It's definitely not joyful. It's not excited or hopeful either. It's talking about people having a mark of weakness in their face, and everyone seems quite depressed, right? And if we look at the options here, depressing is an option, and that is probably the best option there. Nostalgic, again, is closer, but it's not good enough, because nostalgic means you're looking in the past and you're sort of thinking about the past. It can actually be a positive sort of emotion as well. Depressing is the best one here. It's really only talking about negative stuff here. Okay, what does the speaker seem to be criticizing in the poem? Okay, again, let's see where it starts off, right? It starts off talking about the street and the Thames. It doesn't say anything bad about that, but when he sees faces of strangers, he starts saying there are faces of weakness, they're faces of woe, and he starts talking about how it's in everyone, in every man, in every baby. He hears these mental chains in these people. He hears chimney sweepers cry. He sees the church appalling. Soldiers are sighing. Blood is running down the palace walls, right? These are very descriptive and like symbolic imagery, but we have to get into that. What does he actually seem to be criticizing here? Well, let's look at this. It's not the natural environment. He's not saying anything about the natural environment. He barely mentions the city's architecture. Technological advancements, I don't see anything about that in the poem, right? And what we're left with is religious practices and social injustice and suffering. Okay, so these are, again, two very good options here, because we've mentioned the church here already, and the palace. You might think religious practices there. But what I would say here, in terms of the fact that, first of all, it's not only talking about the church, but it's also talking about, so the palace here is symbolic of sort of the royalty, so like the king and the queen and stuff. And to say blood is running down the palace walls, again, like I mentioned earlier, this is a metaphor. But if you think of the image of blood running down the palace walls, it's sort of like this idea of blood being on the hands of the royalty, meaning these guys are the people that are causing people to die. They're the evil people, right? And then the same idea with calling a church blackening, it's sort of giving the same, it is pushing the same narrative on these churches. It's saying that they are not as pure as they seem to be, and it's basically putting the blame onto these people, and that seems to be why everyone seems so sad, seems so mentally restricted, and like sighing, depressed, right? So in terms of that, social injustice and suffering works here. So what it's basically saying is the church and the palace are some of the main reasons for social injustice, right? And suffering. In terms of what does social injustice means, it just means unfairness in society, probably due to the king and the church having too much power and like not having, leaving like the working people with nothing in that sense. Okay, question 7. Why might the speaker mention both chimney sweepers and hapless soldiers? Okay, so these are very different things, right? So these are soldiers and also child labourers. Chimney sweepers are children that are working and sweeping chimneys. It's not a very good job. It's very, very dangerous job, very tough job. And obviously this is not legal anymore. So why is he mentioning both of these? To highlight different professions, that's an interesting one. To show that suffering affects all classes, that seems to be a very strong argument there. To suggest a need for better job opportunities, that doesn't seem very accurate at all. It's not really talking about job opportunities anywhere. To contrast the youth and the adulthood, I can see why someone might choose that, but I don't think that's what the poem is trying to get at. To romanticize their lives, definitely not, because it's talking about how bad their lives are. Now, to highlight different professions is interesting, but it doesn't really give a reason as to why he's highlighting different professions, whereas B is actually sort of showing why he's highlighting different professions, is to show that the suffering affects all of these classes, all of these people. So a class of people is like sort of like a type of, you can think of it as different sort of workers. So let's say like the people who are earning much less might be the lower class from their job, and people who are earning a lot more are a different class, or even just different classes of people. Like a soldier is a different class of people to the chimney sweepers, which are kid labourers. But that ends up being B, the answer here. It's basically used to show the difference, right? It's saying even the chimney sweepers and even the soldiers are having this sort of depression. Okay, question 8. What does the image of palace walls running with blood symbolize? Okay, like we went over this earlier. It's blaming the blood, right? It's saying that the palace is the reason why we've had so many deaths, or like, so this is hard symbolism to understand when you're quite young. But again, if you think of the image, or just imagine blood running down the walls of a palace, If you're thinking about something like that, you probably blame them for deaths, right? And what is it symbolizing here? The corrupt nature of power. That's interesting. Celebration of victory, definitely not. The wealth of the monarchy. I don't think that's quite it. It is trying to say something about the monarchy. The sacrifices of the soldiers. That could be something like that. War and conquest. Again, these are quite similar options here. Now, war and conquest. I think it would be better symbolized with just blood. And same with sacrifice of the soldiers, right? These are very on topic. But what we're having here, I think it's very important that the blood is actually pouring down the palace walls and nowhere else. If he just gave the image of blood on like the ground and stuff like that, that would be a metaphor again for like lots of deaths, sacrifices of soldiers, something like that. But it being on the palace walls is very important, because the palace is where the sort of elite are, the people that are ruling this country and running this country, that have all the power, and there's blood running down those walls. That is sort of giving this idea, or trying to portray this idea, that the power is corrupt, and the palace the royalty have blood on their hands. They're the reason why these soldiers are dying, or anyone is dying in that sense. There's no one really saying that this is actually the soldiers that are dying. But yeah, question 9, how does the poet depict the fate of the youthful harlot? Okay, let's look back over here. So how the youthful harlots curse. So basically, in the midnight streets, he is hearing youthful harlots cursing. So again, like sort of saying bad words into the air, and it blasts the newborn infant's tear. So we could assume this is the infant of the harlot, maybe, or it's just sort of basically having a negative impact on these babies, these infants, who are very pure and innocent people, right? And then again, and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. So that could be related to it. It could be talking about sort of their marriages not working out. Let's see what the options here are. How does the poet depict the fate? With sympathy and pity, with admiration. It's definitely not admiring them cursing. With disdain for their choices, with a sense of inevitability and sorrow, with confusion and curiosity. So again, I can cancel out. It's not really confused by them. I don't think it's really. Again, the poem doesn't seem to be looking down on these harlots. It seems to, again, look sort of like pity them, but also show like it seems to be the whole vibe, or the mood of the poem is like, there's nothing we can do about this. This is just how bad this sort of country is. So let's see what options we're left with here. Sympathy and pity, or sense of inevitability and sorrow. Now these are quite close again. I think it could go either way, but in my opinion, option D here works best. So this sense of inevitability and sorrow is sort of shown throughout the entire poem, right? It's sort of the mood of the entire poem. It's very, there's not, I mean, how he sort of presents this is there's nothing we can do about it. There are these powerful people that are causing all of this, and everything is hapless, right? The soldiers are sighing, the youthful harlots are cursing, but also he doesn't blame them. There's no sentences of blame here for them cursing. It's just sort of showing what's happening. And inevitability and sorrow. This is, in my opinion, the best one here. Again, sympathy and pity seems close, but I don't really. There's no real evidence for sympathy or pity in this actual poem. But sorrow is definitely in the poem. Again, from the mood. Okay, what is suggested by the phrase marriage hearse? Okay, so hearse here is something that we'll need to discuss. So I thought hopefully we would have been able to get through it without having to discuss this word, because actually most people won't know what this word means. let's see if we can figure it out even without knowing what that word means. Blights and plagues, the marriage hearse. So immediately, if you're just thinking about it, I think just from like context, it should seem like broken marriages again. So blights and plagues. So if you know what a plague is, it's like an infection, like the Black Plague, right? It's a disease, right? Blights, it's a similar idea. It's like wounds, right? So if you're thinking about everything in this sentence already, you're going to assume that it's talking about marriages breaking as well, or so it's saying, and blights with plagues, the marriages are breaking, is sort of the gist I would get from that if I understood it. It wouldn't be something positive, right? So if we can just understand that, I'll also describe what hearse is afterwards. You should know that it shouldn't be a. Hearses are used in weddings. I mean, I can see why you might think that. Marriages are cursed by society. Marriages ceremonies are grand. Again, that's sort of not negative like we discussed. Okay, marriages are cursed by society. Okay, so you'd end up with like these three options and you'd have to choose from that. So what is a hearse? A hearse is like a coffin. Okay, now what actually do we end up with as the best description for this? So if you look at coffin, metaphorical death would make the most sense here, right? Because that's what hearse means, and that leaves you with B as the answer. Again, if you knew what hearse means, that would probably be an easy question, but if you don't, then it's quite difficult. Yeah, question 11. What can be inferred about the poet's view of London from the poem? So a lot of you might not have noticed that this is all about London. This is a city, right? The entire poem, the title of the poem is London. Again, the Thames River is in London, so you can assume everything that he's talking about here is about London, and it's already quite negative, right? So let's see what the options give us. He sees it as a place of opportunity and growth. Nope. He believes it as a city of immense beauty. Again, it's definitely not what's being portrayed in this poem. He thinks it's a centre of religious sanctity. I can understand why you might think that. Again, he mentioned the church, but again, it's not like a significant part of the poem. He finds it to be historically significant. There's no evidence for this. Option C is definitely the best option here. A place of suffering and oppression. That is what the entire poem is about. It's about being the people being oppressed by these powerful elites, right? And religion is part of that, but it's not what he's talking about mainly. Okay, question 12. Why does the poet repeat the word every in the second stanza? Okay, let's have a look. So stanza here. This is good to know for your 11 plus in case something like this comes up. They're unlikely to call it stanzas, but it's basically another word for like paragraphs. But in a poem, these are called stanzas rather than paragraphs, because it's not an actual paragraph. But these are the stanzas. So what is the second stanza? It's this one, number 2. So you see, what you can see is every, and without knowing what stanza means, you would have been able to find that repetition of every, right? So you can see he starts off every line in here with in every, right? And now it's asking you what is the importance or the significance, or why is he even doing that, right? So, or why is he talking about every? Let's say first of all he talks about every man, then every infant, then every voice and every band. So he's talking about all of these different collectives, right? All of these different things. So what we can assume he's trying to highlight here is how widespread everything is. It's everywhere, right? It's not just in one place. It's not individuality, right? It's everywhere. Okay, question 13. What effect does the use of midnight streets have in the poem? Okay, let's look at midnight streets. You can see, but most through midnight streets I hear. So he's talking about through midnight streets, he's hearing something the most. Let's see what it says in the options. What effect does it creates a sense of mystery and adventure? Well, adventure is quite optimistic. I don't think that would be the case. It highlights beauty of city at night. It emphasizes the despair and the danger present in the city. It suggests a time of rest and peace. Plus nothing bad happens during the day. Okay, so from the rest of this video you should be able to understand what the general mood of this poem is, and which option would best fit here? It's definitely C, because it's talking about despair and danger. The other ones are quite optimistic. These ones, right? These are quite positive, whereas, I mean, his main goal here is to talk about despair. He wouldn't use Midnights to be positive. Okay, hopefully that helped you out with the poem comprehension. These are quite difficult, and you could get a poem comprehension in your 11 plus. It happened last year, but yeah, I mean, just get familiar with these. It's not the end of the world if you're not that good at them. It's more than likely you'll end up with a normal comprehension.
Hello and welcome to Life Changing Nutrition Summer School 9. I'm Ethan, and today we'll be going through an explanation of how to answer each question. So let's begin with VR, compound words and form a new word. So for this type of question, we are given 2 groups. Each group consists of 3 words, and you're required to find 2 words, one from each group, and when joined together to form a new word. Okay. So the word from group 1 always comes first. So in the example, we can see there's wall and paper, and when put together, that makes wallpaper. So question 1, we have he, him, and her, and row, air, and art. So with these kind of questions, you really do just repeat. Obviously, you use your knowledge of, okay, will that go together well? But you are just going through all of your options in the end of the day. And once again, this is where VR will link directly to your vocab, because knowing vocab and knowing that certain words are very important. So let's begin with he. So we can try he with row. So Herow, that's not a word. Hero, no. And then we try again. So he and then AIR. Sometimes it can help writing out. So like, for example, like he, like here, like it's not a word. Or at least like not one that many people will know of. Okay, so then we move on to HEART. So once again, we can write it out. And we have a word. So the answer to question 1 will be heart. So it will be he and then art. So HEART, when put together, makes heart. So it's like a love heart. Next, question 2. So we have miss, to, and let. And then we have ward, take, and end. And it's the same thing. The exact same thing. So what you got to do is just start with the first word, which is miss. And we put it with ward, so miss ward, not a word. Mistake, well, there's 2 S's, so it's not mistake like MISTAKE, and then missend, not a word. So next we start with to, so to ward is a word. So to ward we have TOWARD. So TOWARD is going to be toward. So towards is like the way that you're facing. So the answer to this one will be TO for the first word, so to. And for the second word we have WAR and D. So to and ward. Okay, next, question 3. So we have sign, train, and grow. And then we have ape, post, and aim. So, same thing. Sign ape, not a word. Signpost is a word. So, with this one, we write sign and then post. So, the answer is signpost. Alright, 4. So we have tear, bar, and out, and then we have round, key, and row. So this one we have, so tear and round, tear round, not a word. Tear key, tear row, no. Bar round, bar key, barrow. Out, so out, round, out, keen, out. No, so this one will be barrow. So like a wheelbarrow is kind of barrow. So bar and row will be the answer. So barrow. Alright, next we have question 5. So here we have and, out and so, and at, on and off. So and at, no. And on, no. And off, no. Out at, no. Out on, no. Out of, no. So at, no. So on, soon, or sooth. Okay, so this will be soon. So S-O and O-N. So you can see how the two words that they put together will, if they are both pronounced on their own, in the way that they'll be pronounced on their own, and then they're pronounced like that when put together. So for example, so on, it won't sound like soon. But that's the idea of this kind of question. It is making you think about things like this. So, when so is put with on, it isn't pronounced so on, it's pronounced soon. And that's just a part of this question. That's the kind of thing that's the way that these questions will be written. So you will have things like that. Alright, question 6. So we have tar, bar, and car, and then grin, gain, and 10. So tar, bar, and car, grin, gain, and 10. Exact same thing again. So let's try tar, grin. Nope. Tar, gain. Nope. Tar, 10. Tar, 10. Nope. Bar, grin. Nope. Bargain. So this one is bargain. Bar and then gain. And it's another example of it. So gain is pronounced as well with the gin sound in bargain. So they're trying to put you off essentially by doing that. 7. So we have post, most, and pine. And then we have age and or, and we already seen the answer. It's postage. So P-O-S-T and then age. And it's the same thing again. So really, my best advice I could give you for this one would really just be to think. And it's such basic advice, but that really is it. Like, there's not much more you can do. Know your words. And for this one, postage, like, the idge sound is not how age would be pronounced. So, with these, I really just recommend to just think about the question. So let's move on to 8. So we have is, us, and as, and then queen, king, and prince. So for this one, we can have is queen, is king, is prince. Nope. Us, queen, us, king, us, prince. Okay. As queen, asking. Yes. So as king, asking, and then as prince. So this one will be as, and then king. So as king, but asking. So question 9. So question 9, we have yes, not, and all, and then is, in, and ice. So it's the same thing again. We're going to be doing, well, yes is, yes in, yes ice, not is, not in, not ice, not ice, and then all is, all in, and all ice. So this will be not and ice. When put together, it makes notice. So I'll just write all of our words when put together on the right hand side. So we have bargain, postage, asking, and notice. Alright, 10. So up, so and it, lid, led, and lad. So up lid, up led, up lad, solid. Oh, so that's it. It's so and lid, and the other options would have been so led, so lad, it led, it lid, it led, it lad. No. So this one is solid. Alright, question 11. So cot, has and some, and then 10, 1 and airy. So cotton. Oh, let me just quickly check this one. No. And then cot 1, cot hairy, has 10, Houston, that could be. Some has 1, has airy, someton, someone, or some airy. Okay. This one is, we could say Houston. Yeah. So, okay, this is a prime example of how knowledge of vocabulary would work well. So hasten is when you try to do something quicker. So Hasten, hasten. Essentially, when you're trying to do something quicker and just speed up a process. So that's hasten. 12. So hand, chest, and neck, and then nut, wool, and string. So same thing. Hand nut, hand wool, hand string. Chestnut, chestnut. So CHEST and then NUT, nut. So chestnut. The other options would have been chest wool, chest string, neck nut, neck wool, neck string, and none of those worked. This one was quite a good one because chest and nut are both pronounced the same way when put together as they would be pronounced on their own. So chest and nut. So this is a good one. So chestnut, and with this you can also compare how the other questions are, where the pronunciation of the words on their own is different to the pronunciation of the words when put together. So 13, we have be, the, and with, and then mine, me, and self. So we have be mine, be me, be self, the mine, the me, the self, with mine, with me, with self. Okay, this is a very interesting one. Okay. I see it. This is, okay, so this is the and me. They've really, you could almost say tricked us with this one. So, obviously when put together, they make theme, and, the is pronounced as the, and then the me is almost silent, is a sound. So, theme. And that brings us to question 14. Can, fall, and prim, and then 8, fill, and tank. I see this one already, but our options are can 8, can fill, can tank, full 8, fulfill, but remember fulfill is for spelled with 3 L's, and then full tank, and then primate or primate, prim fill and prim tank. So this one is primate, so PRIM, and then 8. And that leaves us with primate. Another example of where knowing vocabulary is very important. Okay. Next, create a new word. So with this type of question, you're given 2 groups. Each group consists of 3 words with the second word enclosed in brackets. The second word of the second group is left blank. The word in brackets is made up from letters of the first and the third words. You're required to find the word that will fill the brackets of the second group. It is related to the words outside of the brackets in the same way as the first group. So as an example, we have stone, and the O-N-E is put together with the H, and okay, so that is how they've done that. And then It's the same thing for the second example. They're taking the A and then the 3, 4, 5. Alright, so we're going to... Okay, I'll explain this with a similar method. Okay. So, like the example, I'll label it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because that's... Yeah. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then A, B, C, D, E. Okay. So, you can see how with cheat going to trace and then prime. Okay. So, what we're gonna do is... Okay. Yeah. I'm just going through the question myself. Okay. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, what we gotta just remember is that we expect this to result in a new word. So, let's begin. With trace, we can see that the T is taken from this last letter, so you can say 5. I'll write the working out on this side. The R is going to be taken from the second letter here, so B. The A will be taken from this 4. C will be from 1. And then we have E, which is from either 3 or E. So that comes from 3 or E, and then, so that I'll just write 3 or E. And then we just repeat the same thing. So we have stand and delve, so we start off with our 5, which is going to be D. And then we have B, which is E. 4, which is N. 1, which is N, S, S. And then either the 3 or E, so we can see 3 is going to be A, so that will be denser, or it can be E, which is, well, coincidentally, the letter E. And that leaves us with dense, so the answer will be dense. So with that, it's another example where knowing vocabulary is important for VR. Knowing that denser is not a word, and dense is, will let you know what the correct answer for this question is. So yeah, the answer for question 1 is dense. 2, so bright and tease makes great, and brutal and giant makes our answer. So I'll use the same method to explain this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we have A, B, C, D, and E. Alright, so with great, the G will come from 4. I'll just separate this. So the G will come from 4. The R will come from 2. E will be either B or E. A will come from C. And T is going to be the 6 or B. T, 6 or A. So we're just going to try this out again. So first we can write down all of the letters that we know for sure. So 4 is going to be G. 4 is going to be T. 2 is going to be R. B or E, well, we'll just skip that for now, and then we know C is A. So we have TR, something, A, and then something. So B or E leaves us with either E or, okay, it's I or T. So I or T, and then we know that 6 or A is going to be either L or G. So L or G, and then I or T. So we could have triul. Okay, perfect. So yeah, this will be triul. The other options will be triag, or tritul, or tritag. But yeah, so this will be triul. Okay, I'll just clear some space quickly. I will write in the answers though. So question 1 was dense. And then 2 was trial. And now 3. So we have closed and timed, which gives us slide. And then grosser and diode, which will give us our answer. So same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A, B, C, D, E. Obviously in the exam, don't spend your time doing this. You should be able to you should be able to do this in your head. But same thing. So the S is going to be 4. L is going to be 2. So yeah, this is basically like a visual representation of what you should be thinking. So this can come from that. This comes from that. Like if it's that letter, then where is it on the word below? So take for example, you have this S. You can just line it up. So you know that the first letter is 4, so you're just going to write in C. You're not going to spend your time writing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and A, B, C, D, E. Because that's just, that's just for the question here. But I'll just write it for explanation's sake. So A, B, C, D, E. So yeah, we have 4, which is S, 2, which is L, and then we have I, which is B, D, which is either 6 or E, and then E, which is 5 or D. So let's begin. So 4, 2, and B are all confirmed. So we can have S, L, and I, and then we have either 6 or E, which is, I've just realised what I've done. Alright, so 4 is not going to be S, it will be C, 2 is R, then B is I, 6 really leaves us with R or E, so R or E, and then 5 or D is either E or D. So we can have cry, crud, we can have, cried. So this one will be CRIED. Okay. And with that, when you're going through the words, it really is about just going through each option. You can see that in these questions, they're all quite simple. You can find the answer quite quickly, but of course, with more practice, you'll get better at doing that. So we have cheeky, enact, and plant, and then video, something inspire. So same thing again. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then A, B, C, D, and E. So enact is going to be taking the E from either 3 or 4. The N is going to be from D. The A is from C. The C is from 1. And then the T is from E. So same thing, the D is going to be R. C is I. 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, we'll take the V for that. And the E will be an E still. Right, so it's R-I-V at the end, and then 3 or 4 leaves us with either I or D, so I arrive isn't a word, but drive is. So the answer to this one will be D-R-I-V-E. And next we have question 5. So travel and teeth makes there, bikini and water will make our answer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then A, B, C, D, E. So the T will come from either 1 or A. And then the H is going to be from E. The E is going to be from either 5, B, or C. You can see here how they're adding many more options. And then the R is from 2. And then same thing for E, 5, B, or C. So let's begin by writing the words that, writing down the letters that we know for sure. So E is going to be R, 2 will be I. From there, it's either 1 or A, which is either B or W. 5, B or C is going to be N, A or T. So N, A or T. Same thing here, and now we're just going through our options. So we could have brain. Brain is, so I guess slightly like how I just did it. You can just kind of scan through the words and see what makes a pronounceable word, really. So, I picked out like BRAIN, and that's really how you do it. For example, you take this. After an R here, the only letter that would make sense would be A, because it's a vowel. Like, a consonant just wouldn't make sense. Like, RN or RT, that's just not how English works. As for B or W, that's just trial and error. And after the I, you could have any of those letters, N, A, or T. But yeah, with 5, it's brain. Okay, let's begin question 6. So question 6, this one has Spain and panic, and then China, and then vivid and Asian, which will give us our answers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then A, B, C, D, E. So the P will come from 2, the A will come from either 3 or E, the N will come from either 5 or D, the I will come from either 4 or C, and the C will come from A. So you can see they will add, more shared letters between the words, and that will make it harder. It will make the question harder, but that's the whole point. It's just to give you more to think about as well. So, I've done it again. Alright, 2 is going to be I, and A will be A. So 3 or E will leave us with either V or N. 5 or D is either D or A. 4 or C is 1, 2, 3, 4, I or I. So this will be I. So if this one is in India. Okay. So once again, that's just scanning through the words, just seeing what makes sense, really. So this one for question 6 will be India. So India. And next we have 7. So lint and liner makes term, and then drop and even will give us our answer. So you can see that the LIN, well, what you need to make sure is that this LIN isn't in the other word. There isn't any L, I, or N's. And the E comes from here, the R comes from there. This is a very simple one. So you're just following the same thing. So it's going to be D, R, O, and it helps that they are aligned, and then V and E. So the answer will be drove. So that is our create a new word. Next is shapes. Okay, so shapes. Okay. We begin with the names of 5 shapes are given: pentagon, triangle, hexagon, kite, and rectangle. 3 of them are drawn below, A, B, and C, and complete these statements. Okay, shape A. So shape A has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides, so it's called a pentagon. Shape B has 1, 2, 3 sides, so it's called a triangle. Shape C has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and 2 sides are of equal length and parallel, and 2 sides are of equal length but shorter than parallel, which means that it's going to be called a rectangle. Okay. 2. Circle is a shape that has the most sides. So triangle has 3 sides, hexagon has 6 sides, pentagon has 5 sides, and quadrilateral is 4, which means that the answer to question 2 will be hexagon. 3. Circle the shape with the least number of sides. So nonagon has 9 sides, decagon has 10 sides, heptagon has 7 sides, and octagon has 8. So that means that the answer to question 3 will be 7, so heptagon. 4. So which shape is not a polygon? So we can see that shape A is a hexagon, shape B is, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, it's also a hexagon. Shape C is a quarter of a circle, and shape D is a pentagon. So with this we need to remember the definition of a polygon. So it's a shape it's a shape that's made of lines. So rather than being made up of curved lines, like you can see, or a curved line, it's just made of straight lines. So this answer is going to be fairly simple, but you can see it's testing you on your knowledge of certain definitions. So this one will be shape C. Okay, so 1 we had pentagon, triangle, and rectangle. 2 we had hexagon. 3 we had heptagon. 4 we have shape C. So 5. Which shape is a regular polygon? Okay, regular polygon. So first we know that it's not A, because A is, well, let me check this. Okay, yeah, well, A is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a pentagon, but not all sides are of equal length in this, so no. B is not a polygon because it has a curved side. It's a circle, so no. C does not have sides of equal length. It's a right angle triangle here, so no, because a regular polygon has sides of equal length. D is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a heptagon, and each side is of equal length, which means that 5 is D. 6. A shape is drawn on a centimetre square grid. What is the mathematical name of the shape? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it has 8 sides, so that means that it's an octagon. And then B. Draw any lines of symmetry on the shape. Okay. Let's see how we can do this. Alright. So. Okay. So, lines of symmetry. So, this one is quite rough, but there will be a line of symmetry here. Or more centered, but that's good. Right, there'll be one here, That's a bit better. And you got to remember these diagonals will not work because the shape doesn't look the same on both sides. That's also the same for this. It doesn't look the same on both sides. So that's our answer. Okay, so that's drawing lines of symmetry. Next, we move on to more shapes. Okay. Name each of the shapes below. Alright, so I'll just quickly go through all of these. So 7A, this is a rectangle. So like earlier, it has two sides which are parallel and of the same length, and then two shorter sides which are also parallel and of the same length. B has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, so it's a hexagon. C has 3 sides, so it's a triangle. So triangle. So that's, yeah, so A is a rectangle, B is a hexagon, C is a triangle. Next is D. This is one round line, which means it's a circle. Pretty cool. And then E is pentagon. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides, so it's a pentagon. F is 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, so it's a square. And then so yeah, we had circle, pentagon, square, and now is G. So G has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, so it's an octagon. So octagon. And then H is a semicircle, so it has one straight line and then a curve. So it's semicircle. Okay, so okay, good. Next, I'll just quickly clear up some space. Name each of the polygons below. Okay, we have one, so this is just a matter of counting the number of sides, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's a pentagon. And if it helps, you can add dots like I have, or mark that a certain line's been recorded, because you don't want to forget that you counted a line. So this is then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So an octagon. C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a heptagon. And let's move on to 8. So we have the names of 5 solid shapes are given. 3 of them are drawn below. And then we have shape A, B, and C. And then we have to name them with our 5 options. Let's begin. Okay, so shape A is called A. Well, this one is a cuboid. So it's like a 3D rectangle. And then B is called a cylinder. So this is like it's like a circular prism essentially. So this is a cylinder. And then shape C is called a sphere. Okay. 9. Below is a list of solid shapes and their names. Match each shape to the correct name. Okay, so it seems like we haven't been given a list of the names, but that's okay. So 9 is a pyramid, or well, the first one here is a pyramid. The second one is a triangular prism. So triangular prism. This one here is a cube. And here we have a sphere. 10. So, how many faces does the cuboid have? So, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Essentially, you want to count, you just want to count one side and then remember that there's an opposite. So, there are six faces on a cuboid. How many edges does the cuboid have? So, that will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll just rub this out first. So, with this, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, so 8. And then you have 9, 10, 11, 12. So, an edge is like a line where two faces meet. Next, how many vertices does a cuboid have? So, remember, a vertices is a corner. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it has 6 faces, 12 edges, and 8 cuboids. So let's look at 11. So with 11, this one is Yeah, so with 11, below our next for various 3D shapes, name 3D shapes. So A, this one's going to be a cone, so with one circle, and then our triangular shaped, extra sheet you could say, or it's got a curve. This one has a curve. B is a square-based pyramid. So you can see that by the square and then the 4 triangles. So square-based pyramid. You need to remember there are also triangle-based pyramids. So this is a square-based pyramid. C, we can see that there are 2 rectangular faces and then 4 extra faces. So this one is a cuboid. And things like this, you just have to recognize there's 2D shapes that, when put together or when folded, can make a certain 3D shape. D, we have 2 circles, a rectangle, so this is a cylinder. And then E, we have 2 triangles and then 3 rectangles, so it's a triangular prism. Okay, and then F, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equally sized. This seems like it's supposed to be, seems like they're all supposed to be squares. They are rectangles, which would mean that they are, which would mean that they are a cuboid. However, they are all equally sized. So this one will be a cube. Okay, and that is shapes. Next we move on to graphs. Okay, graphs. So let's begin with question 1. 80 students visited the library over 3 days. So, of course, just make sure you remember this key information. The two-way table shows some information about these students. Complete the two-way table. So, year 7, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then total. Year 8, we have 14 on Monday, and then the rest isn't filled in. And then the totals, well, we know them all except for Monday. And what we have to do is basically start off by filling information that we can work out based off of what we know. So, just starting with the total for Monday, well, we know the total for all is going to be, 80 minus 33 minus 26 will give us the total for Monday. So, what we got to do is just do this, and it's 21. From there, we can work out the number of year 7s on Monday. So that's going to be 6, 7. And then from there, we can work out the year 7s on Tuesday, which will be 18 Then we can work out all of the rest of our values. So, for example, here it's going to be 80 minus 38. Wednesday is going to be 26 minus 13. And Tuesday will be 33 minus 18. And that leaves us with 42 here, 13, and 15. Oh, 15. And that's by just finding the difference between the total and the value that we already know, because the remainder of that, or, well, the answer to our subtraction, will be the number of year 8s, because obviously this number of year 7s on one day must add to the number of year 8s on one day to give us the total for the day. And all of the totals must add together too, or all of the totals for each day must add together to give us the total number of students to wait on the trip, which was 80. So, 2, we have, there are 40 boys and girls at a youth club. There are 23 girls, 9 girls play rounders, 4 boys don't play rounders. So how many boys play rounders at the youth club? So we got to write out all the information. So we know the total is 40, 23 girls in total, 9 play rounders, 4 boys don't play rounders. So first we can find the number of boys. So that would be 40 minus 23, which is going to equal to 17. Then we know that 4 boys don't play rounders, so that's just 17 minus 4, which gives us 13. So the answer for question 2 will be 13. 13 boys. Next is 3. So for question 3, it's asking convert 50 pounds into dirhams. So we can just draw a line. Oh, not there. So we can draw a line from here upwards. And we can see that that meets with 250. So the answer will be 250 dirhams. So what you're doing with this is you're going up the graph, the conversion graph, and then you're just converting into 250 dirhams. So question 5, convert 175 dirhams into pounds. It's the same thing. We go from 175 dirhams, draw a line over to our blue line, and then draw it downwards onto the x-axis. And we can see that it all meets at 35. So the answer to question 1 is 250, question 2 is 35 pounds. Next, Tom wants to buy a camera, and in London, the camera costs 380 pounds. In Abu Dhabi, the camera costs 2,000 dirhams. In which city is the camera cheaper, and by how much? So what we got to do is work out so we need to convert one of our numbers into the other currency. And in this case, I'll do it with 2,000 dirhams. So first, we can see 2,000 dirhams isn't on here. So we take 200 dirhams and work out that it's worth 40 pounds. If 200 dirhams are worth 40 pounds, I'll just write D for this. Then it means that 2,000 dirhams, which is 10 times more, so greater by a scale factor of 10, the 40 pounds will be multiplied by 10 to give 400. So we can see that Abu Dhabi is more expensive, and it's more expensive by 20 pounds. Okay, so Abu Dhabi, which city is cheaper? So London is cheaper, and it's cheaper by 20 pounds. Next, 4. The weights of 4 athletes are displayed below. And then who is the lightest athlete? So this will be Sam, because the green bar is the shortest. So it'll be Sam. B, write down Marty's weight. So this is a case of just reading the graph. So here we have 2, 4, 6, 8. So it's going to be 78. It's on board of 79, but no, this will be 78. Work out the range of weights, and this is working out the greatest, so 78. And then the smallest, which is going to be Sam. So you can see how the questions A and B build up to this. So this is going to be 60. So that's 78 minus 60. And you'll find the range. So it's the difference of the biggest and the smallest. So it's going to be 18. Okay. So that is Sam, 78, and 18. Sam, 78, 18. Okay. Next, question 5. So the pictogram shows how much money 4 friends raised for charity. Who raised the most money for charity? Okay, and then remember, one circle represents £10. So here we're just looking for the most circles. And for 5A, that will be Ellie. And next, B. So who raised the least amount of money? So this is the least circle. So Cara. So this is Cara. Okay. And then C. So how much money did Dylan raise? So he raised 2 tens and then half of a ten. So that'll be £25. D. How much more did Ellie raise than Cara? So we know Ellie raised £50. This was £25. Cara raised £20, so 50 minus 20 is 30. So £30. E. So how much more money did Ellie raise than Dylan? So that's 50. Then Dylan was 25. So this will be £25 here. F. So how much money did the friends raise in total? So Ben raised 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a half, so £45. So we add 45 to 20, 65. Add to 25 is 90, and then add 50 is 140. So that's £140. 6. What was the population in 1980? So we go back to 1980, which is this cross, and then we draw it over, and that gives 60, 70, 80, 90. So that's 760. B. In which year was the population 700? So we draw a line over here, and we can see that it meets with 1970. And then the population is expected to increase by 120 by 2020. So what is the expected population in 2020? So what we can do with this is, well, we can just assume that in 2010 is the value that they're expecting it to increase from. So all that will be is taking this number, which is 990, and doing 990 plus 120, and that will give us 1,110. So 1,110. So yeah, 760, 1970, then 1,110. 7. So 7A. The distance time graph shows Class 8A's journey to the zoo. They stopped for a picnic on the way to the zoo. What time did the bus leave school? And then, okay. So the time they left school is going to be the time where they hadn't travelled any distance, so that'll be 9 a.m. B. What time did they stop for a picnic? Well, that'll be the time when they stopped increasing in distance. Their speed didn't increase because, remember, speed is distance over time, so their speed was 0 because their distance hadn't changed over the time. So here you can see that, so that'll be 10 a.m. So that's 10 a.m. here. See how far had they travelled when they stopped for a picnic. So The distance here is going to be 50. So that'll be 50 miles. You can see the unit is up here. So 50 miles. D is going to be, well, how long did they stop for? You can see the time between here, it's 30 minutes. And then E, what time did they arrive at the zoo? And you can see here, that'll be 11:30 a.m. Next, how far is the zoo from school? So that's looking at the distance, and that'll be 90 miles. Okay. Next, let's move on to 8. So, the table shows information about flights from an airport. What is the flight number for the flight to Sydney? So you can see going to Sydney means the destination will be there. So the flight number will be TT001. So TT001. B, how many flights take off before 8:30? So before 8:30 we can see there's 3. And then C, we can see that there's, what time does flight AY556 take off? So AY556 is here, going to New York, and it takes off at 7:25. D, how much later does the flight to Cairo take off than the flight to Sydney? So to Cairo is 8:15, and Sydney is 7:55. So you can just work out the time difference, which will be just 20 minutes. And that's your answer. So it's essentially doing 8:15 minus 7:55. The difference is 20 minutes. Cool, so that is TT001, 3, 7:25 and 20 minutes. So let's move on to the pie chart. Shows the colour of sweets in the bag and what's the most common colour of sweets, and that'll be the biggest section, so that's green. The least common colour of sweets is going to be the smallest section, which is red. So you have green, red, and then C, so what fraction of sweets are white? So we can see there's a 90-degree angle there, so it will be, well, a quarter. So that, remember, it's a fraction, so you've got to give it as 1/4, a quarter. So green, red, and a quarter. Okay. 10. The students in a school study one language. The pie chart shows the languages studied. What's the most popular language? Well, we expect the most popular one to be the one that is most studied. So that's French, because it takes up the most space in the pie chart. What's the least popular language? So that'll be Spanish, because it's the smallest section in the pie chart. C, what fraction of the students studied French? Well, here that looks like 50% because we have a straight line here. So that'll be 1/2. D, so there are 300 students that attend school, so how many study French? So that'll be 300, and then divide that by 2 because it's half. So that'll be 150. 11. The pie chart shows how a group of students travel to school. What's the most common method of travel? So that'll be the one that takes the most space, which is going to be walking. And then the least common method of travel is the one that takes up the least space. So here we have 90 degrees just to add, so that'll be the smallest number, which is cycle. C, so what fraction of the students caught the bus? Well, that'll be 90 here, so a quarter over, so that'll be a quarter. D, what fraction of the students walked? Well, that'll be here, so 120 over 360, which is equal to a third. And then there's 36 students in the group, so how many caught the bus? That'll be 1/4 multiplied by 36, So if you put it over 1, that's 36 over 4, which is equivalent of 9 students. It's like doing 36 divided by 4. And then how many students walked? That'll be a third, so same thing. Third times the 36, you get 36 over 3, so it's 12. Next, question 12. So there's 24 students in class, and the pie chart shows information about their eye colour. How many students have green eyes? So that'll be a quarter. So that's 1 over 4 times by your 24. So 24 wholes essentially, that's why it's over 1. So 24 over 4 is equal to 6. And then how many students have blue eyes? So that's like saying 120 over 360, which is 1 over 3. So you're then doing 1 over 3 times 24 over 1, which is 24 over 3, which is 8. And then how many students have brown eyes? Well, that'll be the remainder. So first you can do 360 minus 120 plus 90. 120 plus 90 is 210. So the answer to this will be 150. So then what you're going to do is take your 150 over 360 and simplify it. It's like doing 15 over 36, which can simplify to if you divide both by 3, you get 5 over 12. So 5 over 12 times by your 24 will give you over 12. You'll have 24 times 5 is 120. So 120 divided by 12 gives you 10. So 10 is the answer for that. Okay, spatial reasoning, folding. So this is the next section. So spatial reasoning, folding. Okay, let's begin. So here we have a pentagon, where you expect it to be folded across the dotted line or the dashed line. So with this one, we can expect it to look like a mirror. So it will look like that, and that means it's C. For 2, it's basically the same thing. So expect it to be mirrored like this, and that means that your answer will be 2 will be B. And remember, it will be B. Sometimes it is a case of eliminating 2. For 3, we have another mirror where it's expected to look like this. These questions do help for people who are able to visualize things too. But in this case, we can see that 3 is going to be D. 4 looks like it's going to be A. Yeah. And if I'm to give advice for how to get good at these questions, really, it is a case of practice, but also try to visualize what it will look like. So, you're trying to imagine how this will be a mirror, essentially. So 4 is A. 5 will give you a triangle here. So it's not A. 5 is, it is B. Okay, it's not C, not D, not E. 6 will be mirrored upwards, where you will have this here. Okay. And that means that 6 is, not B, because it's too short. Not C, not D, not E. So it's A. And what you're going to remember with these is that everything has to remain at the same scale. So it should all be the same size. It should all be the same size. And if it isn't, then there's a question error, then just expect it to all be the same scale relative to each other as well. So next we have fold, hole punch, and then unfold. What do you see now? So you can see that with question 7, what they've done is they've taken this main shape, they've folded it in half, and then they folded the top part in half here, so yeah, that's that to that, and then they've hole punched it. So what we expect is for it to unfold, there'll be a hole here, and then after that there'll be 2 holes here, and that leaves us with our one option of okay, well, we can cross out B, not C, not E, and then it's between A and D. So we can see the hole is in the middle, so it's not going to be A, and that means that 7 is D. 8, so same thing, is unfolded there, and then folded in half. So after it unfolds from here, we can expect there to be a hole here as well. Then when it unfolds from there, we can expect there to be a hole. There'll be a hole. Okay, so here essentially. So there'll be, there'll be 2 holes there. So it's not B, not C, not E. And now we just look at the positioning of the holes. So we can see where the holes are. And with that, we can see that 8 is going to be A, because the positioning of the holes are wrong in D. 9, so same thing. We're going to draw dots where it will unfold. Okay, so when it unfolds first, it's going to be opened. Okay, so these are getting slightly harder. So yeah, we know that when it unfolds. Okay, I see, okay. Yes, so there'll be a hole here, but then this hole won't be there, because there's nothing behind it, because in this empty space here, that means that once it's unfolded, we only expect 1 dot there, which is, for question 9, C. So we've had 7 is D, so 7 is D, 8 is A, and 9 is C. So 10. So this, they have slightly more steps now. So what we're going to expect is once it unfolds, okay, so it's unfolding, so it's folding that corner, okay, then it's folding in half diagonally. So when it unfolds, what we can expect is, okay, yes, there'll be a hole here. Then once you unfold from that, there will be 2 more holes there. And that is B, so it's not A, not C, not D, and not E. Okay, so 10 is B. 11. So 11, we can see when you unfold, what you're going to have is a hole here. But for 11, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, so you'll have a hole there, but then it will be reflected there. So then this is about the positioning, not C, D, or E, because there's the wrong number of holes. And now it's about the position. So it's going to be A, because in B they're too close to each other. So 11 is A. 12. Okay. 12, when it's unfolded, you're going to have a hole there. And from that, you're then going to have 2 holes like this. Yep. Yeah, you have 2 holes like that. And then when that's unfolded again, that will just be mirrored. So 12 is B. Yeah, it's not A, not D, not C, not D, not E. So 13. So 13, we have, okay. that's been folded and then folded inwards. Okay, so yeah, folded inwards. Then here it's folded in half. So when this is unfolded, okay, yeah, so this is all, you're visualizing it all now. Okay, so there's going to be a dot there. And then from that, there'll be a dot here. So 13 is A. Yeah, all of the other options don't have the right number of dots. And that takes us to proofreading. Cool. Okay, proofreading. So, this one is find any spelling errors in the short passage. Okay, let's begin. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, Isla and Sam have been looking forward to their road trip for months. Initially, when they had thought that planning it would be a simple process, but there were so many practicalities to think about. Sam was particularly concerned about whether they should be able to find affordable accommodation. They were leaving in a week, and after the cursory internet search, they had found that most hotels were totally full. Sam regarded this unfortunate news as an absolute catastrophe, but Isla remained calm. In the worst scenario, we can just camp, she said. Okay, so here we're finding spelling errors. Alright, let's begin. So Isla and Sam had been looking forward to their road trip for months. Initially is spelled incorrectly here. So initially should be spelled instead as INITIALLY. So here they've had to add the T and then, so they've had to add the T. Okay, next let's move on to, so 2. They had thought that planning it would be a simple process, but there was 2 is, and no mistakes for this one. Okay, and 3, but there were so many practicalities to think about. Sam was particularly concerned about, so this one is going to be practicalities. And I'll just circle the other one. So initially, practicalities. So practicalities should be spelled here. Practicalities. So that is PRACTICALITIES. Right. So practicalities. So with that, you have to replace the first E with an I. I'll rewrite that actually, just so it's a little clearer. PRACTICALITIES. So practicalities. So PRACTICALITIES. So practical ITs. So many practicalities to think about. Sam was particularly concerned about whether they would be able to find affordable accommodation. They were leaving, so this one is going to be affordable. So affordable should be spelled with double L, so AFFORDABLE. So affordable accommodation. They were leaving in a week, and after a cursory internet search, they had found that most hotels, so this one will be cursory, spelled not with an A, but instead with an O, so cursory. So, cursory, well, this is a guess, this is English, but knowing your vocab is so important. So, cursory essentially means like something quite casual or like simple. So like after a simple internet search, they found that most hotels were totally full. Sam regarded this unfortunate news as an absolute catastrophe. This will be catastrophe. So catastrophe should instead be spelled CATASTROPHE. So CATASTROPHE. So catastrophe. I'll rewrite this in non-cursive writing. So CATA catastrophe. Alright. 7. But Isla remained calm. In the worst case scenario, we can just camp. So 7, this one will be scenario. So it should be spelled SCENARIO. So SCENARIO, scenario. So that is Isla and Sam had been looking forward to their road trip for months. Initially spelled INITIALLY, so replacing the C with the T. They thought that planning it would be a simple process, but there was soap, and that has no mistakes. So many practicalities. So PRACTICALITIES, so practical ITs to think about. Sam was particularly concerned about whether they would be able to find affordable accommodation. They were leaving in a week, and after a cursory, which remember means simple, so you're replacing the A with an O, so CURSORY, they had found that most hotels were totally full. Sam regarded this unfortunate news as an absolute catastrophe, but Ina remained calm. In the worst case scenario, we can just camp, she said. Next, we're finding spelling errors in the sentences, so these aren't one whole passage like the one at the top. 8. The carefree and foolish man failed to appreciate the gravity of his current predicament. This one is appreciate. So appreciate should be spelled with 2 P's instead. So APPRECIATE. So APPRECIATE. So appreciate. The carefree and foolish man failed to appreciate the gravity of his current predicament. 9. The defendant felt that the 12th jury member would be prejudiced against her. So for 9, this is the defendant felt the 12th jury. No mistakes here, so I'll just write none. 10. A handful of politicians decided to band together and support environmental causes. 10, this one is environmental, so that should be spelled ENVIRONMENTAL, so environmental. Okay, 11. So 11, harassment and bullying should not be tolerated at school or in the workplace. This is no mistakes. 12. The victim exaggerated the extent of the injuries he had suffered in the attack. 12 will be exaggerated, so this should be spelled EXAGGERATED. So EXAGGERATED, so exaggerated. So instead of 1G, you have 2. Okay, 13. 7 cars pass through this stretch of road every 60 seconds, on average. This one is... no mistakes for this one. Yeah. None. And then 14. So, Frida struggled with the pronunciation of many words in her French classes. So this one is going to be... So, pronunciation. Yes, so this is a very common mistake. So, pretty much pronunciation, obviously, like pronoun, like with pronoun, you know, we would, phonetically this would be correct, but no, it isn't. No, don't think this is correct at all. So, no, for pronunciation, so no, it's spelled P-R-O, so P-R-O-N-U-N-C-I-A-T-I-O-N. So that's P-R-O-U-N-C-I-A-T-I-O-N. P-R-O-N-U-N-C-I-A-T-I-O-N. Okay. Next one. This is 15. There's no number there, but 15. So, which of the words below is spelled correctly? Tick the box. So, there's surveillance, 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 and surveillance. This one is D. So, S-U-R-V-E-I-L-L-A-N-C-E. With A, it's spelled with survey, so no. Same with C, spelled with survey, so no. And with B, there's no double L, so D is perfect. Next, we are choosing the best word. So, if it had been sunny, we should have, would have, must have, did, ought to have, and will have gone to the beach. This one is would have. So, if it had been sunny, we would have gone to the beach. So, of course, don't put should of and don't put of because it's always have. Although some people pronounce it like that, don't write it like that because it's have. You should have done that. 2. Queen Danya saddled up her beloved stallion. 3. Leo was determined to be the best something table tennis player in the room. To be the best table tennis player in the room. 4. The recycling bin something away every Monday is taken away every Monday. So the recycling bin is taken away every Monday. 5. We chose the something card in the shop. Well, that'd be funniest card in the shop. Okay, 6. We noticed something unusual insect near the school pond. This one will be we noticed an unusual insect near the school pond. 7. Zoe baked some fruit muffins, something she went to bed. So, Zoe baked some fruit muffins before she went to bed. And now it's a passage, so rather than them being separate sentences, this is a passage. 8. Mr. Johnson was something by a loud noise coming from outside. So remember, with the passage, it's often helpful to sometimes read ahead and understand the context too, to understand the tense that's being used and what word will fit best based on that. So, Mr. Johnson was awake by a loud noise, no, awaked by a loud noise, no, awoken by a loud noise, awaked. So, well, this one will be awoken. So, Mr. Johnson was awoken by a loud noise coming from outside. And then 9. So in the garden, he immediately sprang out of bed. So springed out of bed, sprang out of bed, sprung out of bed, springs out of bed, springing out of bed. So we know that it's past tense, so it's going to be sprang out of bed. Then 10, and headed downstairs to see what was going on. He only paused to put on his dressing gown. His wife lay in bed still asleep. So lay, L-A-Y. 12, there's somebody out there. He thought, or he thanks, he thinks, he thinked, he thinking. So once again, knowing that it's past tense is what's useful with this. So, and there's somebody out there, he thought to himself. 13, so whom's out there, who's out there, who is out there, whom out there, what's out there. Well, because he thinks that a person is there, he's going to say who's, as in who is out there. So, who's out there? He shouted as he peered into the dustbins. Oh no, as he peered into the garden. He could see something moving around between the dustbins. Suddenly, a pair of bright, shining eyes stared straight at him. Mr. Johnson smiled to himself as the red fox quickly, so the adverb, quickly ran away. Okay, this is the last page. Okay, so here we have punctuation and capital letter mistakes. So, okay, with 1, so the harder the better, I said. That's how I've always felt about music. If I can learn the most complicated pieces. So this one, the mistake is in it's in B. So that's how I've always felt about music. So that is how I felt about music. So this is the abbreviated version. So you need an apostrophe after the T and before the S. So that is how I've always felt about music. Okay. I'll just quickly rub that out. Okay. So, if I can learn the most complicated pieces by Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky, I know the rest will be very easy. So, for question 2, the mistake is in what? Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky should have capital T because it's his name. 3, well, 3 is in A. You should have a capital S. So it won't bother you to start with Hamlet. I'd say that was Mr. William Shakespeare at his very best. So this isn't a passage. This is... oh no, maybe it is. Okay. Actually, looking at it now, it seems a little like a... okay, yeah, it seems a little like a passage or an extract. But anyway, 4. You'd certainly be challenged. Good grief, it challenges me. So after me, you should have a full stop or some form of punctuation there. Yeah, you should have full stop. Yes, full stop. So 4 is D. 5. So I can't wait, I said honestly. We'll make a well-rounded young man out of you. So 5 is A. So you should have a speech mark there. So I can't wait, I said honestly. We'll make a well-rounded young man out of you before you realise it. You'll be more American than most Americans. So 6 is going to be... oh, well, it's in B, because you can have a semicolon there instead because of the length of the clause. And then 7. So, my lesson started at a deliberately slow pace, with me reading out loud a few. So 7 is going to be no mistake with this one. And then 8 lines from Act 1 of Hamlet and Dick explaining their meaning. He encouraged. So 8 is going to be B, because Hamlet should be capital H because it's the name of the play. 9, he encouraged me to ask questions. It wasn't easy digesting Shakespeare's longest and most difficult play, so there should be an apostrophe after Shakespeare's because it's possessive, because it's his play. Like Shakespeare owns the place actually. Also, looking back at 6, no mistake in this one. Yeah, no, that comma's fine.
OVR, create a new word. Again, when you're looking at these, you can see you have to take letters from the left side and the right side of the word to make a new word. Okay, question 184 is quite simple. Able seems like it's straight away just taken from here, nothing from the right side. So if we take that, we'd get cope, option C. For question 185, we've got MAME, so it looks like we took AIM from here and maybe the M from the second place. So D from here and then RONE. Oh, sorry, not RONE, it would just be the last 3 letters, ONE, which would be done. Okay, so option C, sorry. Question 186, pint. So it looks like we took the P from here, the IN, and then the T. So that would be S, IN, and then E. Alright. Looks like that's not an option, so let's have a look at the other potential letters that it could have taken from. So maybe, if I go in, if I zoom in, maybe it took the P, and then the I, and then the N. So that would be S, I, R, yeah, and then E. So that would be sire. So you can see sometimes you'll get, there's multiple letters that it could potentially have taken it from, and you have to double check. Alright, so 185, you got ILD, and I think they took the M from here. So if we took the G, you got OLD, you're going to get gold. Alright, 188, so you take the T, and you take the I. So that would be S and I, so I'm just going to write that in. And you take the M and the E, so I'm not sure which E, but I think it looks like this one. Right, then it would be T-E, sight, option D. Question 189, we have got, so B definitely from the right side, so the first letter is going to be C. Then ENT maybe, that doesn't seem to make a word, so maybe they took the E from the first letter, right, so that would be A-R-T. A-R-T, cart, which is option C. Alright, 195, this looks a bit simple. R came from here and the C came from here, so that'd be N and aim, name. Alright, 191, again looks like we took INE from here and T from here, so if we took D and the last 3 letters here would get down. Question 192, looks like we took the last 3 letters here and the first letter here, that would give us form. 193 again, last 3 letters and then M, so R and rose, there you go. 194, looks like we're doing a good amount of these, so D and ARK, and hopefully because these are quite easy, this should be something where you can breeze through within under 5 minutes. That's the goal with easy questions whenever we give them to you. So C and then oat, so F, and you get 3. So ring, so it looks like take the R from here and the ING, C from here and then ASE, that's going to be case. And the last one, HINT, hint, B and RED, bread. Question 158. So this folds down, and then if you unfold it, it's just going to reflect upwards. Okay, so you're going to have 2 dots, like option B. Alright. Question 159. If you fold this up, you're going to have 1, 2, and when you unfold it, it's going to reflect. Okay, so imagine it reflecting, it's going to be like that. 1, 2. And you can see that is option E. This is too close. Question 160. If you fold this down, and then fold it again, you can see the first thing we have to do is reflect it across here. So we got this, and then we have to reflect upwards, okay? So what happens when you reflect across this straight line, everything's going to sort of invert. Alright, and you're going to get 4 circles at the top, and then 2 triangles pointing down, 2 triangles pointing up, which is option D. Question 161, this is a simple one, you just reflect across the diagonal line. So you're going to get something that is very even looking, like option D. Question 162, so again you've done 2 folds here, one this way, one this way. Alright, so you're going to reflect both, okay? So one across this line, and one across this line. Now, because diagonal lines, you have to be careful again. When you reflect across a line, you do the closest point, okay? So this one's right here. This one, look, you'll have to look at the distance, right? So the distance always has to be the same. So for this one, the distance is like this. It's going to be like that. So there you go, you've got your line there. And this one's going to be up here. And you can see, when I draw it, it's sideways. And that's basically what happens whenever you draw when you reflect across a diagonal line. And remember, whenever you're folding or unfolding, it's always just reflections, right? So this is a skill that you're getting tested on. So you've got a reflection right here. It's going to look like this. And you can imagine, if you're doing the same thing the other way, if you look at the distances, this is where this point is going to be, this point is going to be around here, and this point is going to be around here. So it's going to be pointing to the left. So if we let me just zoom in a second here, because that's going to make it a tiny bit easier. So hopefully you can see option A as well. So we can cancel out this one. I'm just going to double check this one because I think I might have made a mistake there. So one more time. Draw the distances, even distances, that's where the top is going to be. That's where the bottom, or this corner is going to be. And this corner is going to be up here. So it's actually going to be facing to the right, my mistake. It's going to be facing to the right. And then this one, like we mentioned, is going to be facing to the left. Okay. So that's going to be option C right there. Again, it's a bit difficult, but you can see if you look at the distance from the reflection line or the folded line, it has to be equal on both sides, and that's how you know. Okay. Same thing with this one. Equal distances, right? Equal distances here. Equal distances here. Right. So this one, I've sort of drawn it a bit poorly, but yeah, that's where it would be pointing to the right, option C. Question 163. If we fold this and then we fold it down again, you can see the only part where you've actually got this is over here. You've got multiple folds. Okay. So when you reflect this, when you unfold it, you're going to get that, okay? And then all of this is going to get reflected. Actually, sorry, it seems to be just this sort of section, right, that's been folded onto. So anything in this area, right, this area right here, is going to get unfolded and produce another copy on this side. And that's what we'll get. If you can see, basically my drawing, I'm going to rub out the lines. And just look for whichever one matches that, which is going to be not option C because it's got a circle right here. It's going to be option E. Question 164. So you fold this up. This is pretty much irrelevant. There's nothing, I don't think there's anything that's hole punched into that section. Oh, actually there is this circle right here. You can see. So that tells you that when you unfold it, it's going to produce another circle down here. Anyway, this whole section is folded to the right. Okay, so you have to think about which areas have a certain amount of layers. Okay, so right here we have 2 layers of paper. And then when you fold this on top of it, this area is going to be 3 layers, so you can see 3 layers. And the top area is going to be only 2 layers because there's no folds there. So you have to imagine the number of layers. That's another thing that you can use. So 3 layers means there's going to be, I believe it's going to be 3 circles. And then this one's only going to be 2 triangles because there's 2 layers, right? So triangle is simple. When you unfold it, it's just going to produce one more triangle here. Now, when you unfold this, you're also going to get a circle here. And when you unfold it downwards, so this one right here, you're also going to get a circle at the bottom, like I was saying. Okay, so you have 3 circles, 1, 2, 3, and 2 triangles, which is option A. 165, again folded downwards, and you can see right here we've got 2 layers in this section. Okay, so when you unfold it, it's going to reflect across, and you're going to get that this one has only 1 layer. There's no reflections happening or no new things coming out. That's going to be option A. 166. If you fold this once and then fold it again, this is all 3 layers. You've got 3 layers of paper here. So first you unfold it this way. So you're going to get across this line, you're going to unfold across that, and you're going to get something like this, where you've got the triangles pointing to the left. Okay, and then you're going to unfold across this line. So imagine this is a paper now, and you're going to unfold across this line. So you're going to get the triangles this time. Imagine reflecting this. This is going to reflect this way, and this one's going to reflect this way. So everything's going to be pointing towards the middle, which is option C. Alright. Same thing I was talking about earlier, where when you're looking at the reflection, each point has to have the equal amount of distance from the line. 167, a fold, and then you get this line folded again. So again, if you draw out this section, this line has 3 layers of paper, this one only has 2. Okay, so 3, that means first we unfold this, we get another circle here, and then that's going to be this whole paper. Okay, and so not actually, I've made a mistake there. This one heart actually has no layers underneath it, so this is like the layer, right? So once you've done that circle, you've got this part of it, that's going to be 2 layers. You unfold that, so to the left, so you're going to get a heart that's reflected, and you also get a circle here. Alright, so I'm just going to rub out the lines now. Tried my best to explain that there. And that's what you're going to look like. So if we look at option A, is what it looks like. Question 168. So fold this once, which will get you something like this. Alright, so this part, this section is 2 layers at the moment, this section is 1 layer. And then he's folding downwards, so remember this split. Okay, so you fold down. So that means this side has like 4 layers, this one has 3. Okay, and I think it's only actually this part of it, right? So first of all, let's unfold it one by one. This is what you have to do, right? Unfold one by one. So you're going to unfold this one, you're going to get a triangle and a circle, alright? Pretty standard. And now think about what was actually folded onto. So what we have to unfold is this section, right? This section was the remaining one, so it's this one that we have to unfold. So let's unfold that again, and it's going to produce 2 other reflections, and that's what we've got. So 4 circles here, triangle, triangle, and a circle, which is option E. Question 169. Fold it once, fold it again, fold it again. Okay, so again, one step by step. Let's unfold the first one, it's going to give us a triangle. Then let's unfold everything again. If we reflect everything, this is what we're going to get. You have to unfold this middle section again, so that means you reflect it one more time. So all the triangles are going to be facing outside, and you get a circle. Alright, so remember, the left-sided triangles have to be facing outside, middle ones are facing towards the right. There should be a circle here, so it can't be that. These triangles are facing the wrong way, these ones are facing the wrong way. This one seems to have the triangles on the left facing the wrong way, so this is option A. Left triangles facing left, these ones facing right, these ones facing left. Okay, 170. So this fold, fold, and then fold. Okay, so think about this sort of section. This is what has just been folded. So if we unfold that, we're going to get one circle. Alright? And then the next thing to unfold was this. Right? So I think that was this. So this section is going to unfold right here. That's what we get, a reflected triangle. Next section was this top area, so we unfold that and we get a circle. Very simple stuff, and you can see that is straight away, that is option E. Okay. Question 171, fold again, and you've got this section, fold again. So first we unfold this to make another heart. And then we're going to unfold everything that way, upwards. So you're going to reflect everything. So this is going to be like this. This is also going to be like this, and this is going to be upside down. Bad heart drawing, but yeah, upside down, so you can see the reflections. These are wrong. This one is right. Exactly like my drawing up there. Okay. 172. And if I fold up and then right, everything here is going to get reflected. Okay, first unfold is towards this side, so we get these, and now we reflect everything downwards, so we get these circles, we get the triangles facing the center line. Okay, so you've easily got that option B. Question 173, fold up, fold right, and there. So again, one by one. So across a diagonal line always is a bit confusing. Again, look at how far is where is this point of the heart supposed to be? Well, it's supposed to be here, okay? What about the tip of the heart? If we draw from the center line, where's it going to be? The tip of the heart is going to be here. So that means we know the heart is going to be facing towards the right, right? Because that's what we figured out. The tip is going to be here, and the bottom is going to be here. Okay, we know the heart's going to be facing right. So we can cancel out any of them that don't have the heart facing right. You can see D and C do have it. And what we do next is we unfold to the right, it seems. So just this section that needs to be unfolded. So we get the heart like this. Boom. And then, so again, remember when I'm drawing this in, this is what we've got on the paper right now while I'm unfolding. Now, next thing to unfold is just this middle section. So this section right here needs to unfold downwards. So that means we reflect it again. Okay, like that and like that. Okay. So all the hearts need to be facing inwards. There should only be 5, and you've got option C. 174. Fold this down, fold, fold. Okay, so again, one fold away, you got your reflection. Okay, and now look at what happened. So we folded from wherever this was, we folded it, we folded, unfolded this way. Okay, so we basically should get some sections in this area. That's what we have to unfold. So we're reflecting across this line right here, if you can see my pen. We're reflecting these hearts across that line, alright? Again, this gets complicated when you're doing these diagonal lines. So again, look at the distance from the center line. So this is where the bottom of the heart is going to be. This is where the top of the heart is going to be. I did that badly. Oh. It one more time. So we're looking, when I say distance, we're just like equal distance from a straight line, equal distance. This is where the bottom of the heart is going to be. That's where the top of the heart is going to be. And so you can see it's going to be like a bit of it's going to be basically facing this way, if that makes sense. And then this one, again, equal distance away. Got the heart right here, and then the top part of the heart is going to go around here, So that one's going to be facing to the right. Okay. So immediately, if we look for which ones that's going to give us, I'm just going to draw that back in. Yeah, there we go. You can see the heart facing left and right, basically, when we do that unfolding. Okay, and then at that point, so we've got this one. We're going to unfold across. Okay, so everything gets reflected across this line again. Now again, you sort of want to imagine. Just look at the option right here. Like, is this side a reflection of this side? Yes, it is. Okay, so that's going to be the answer. Now, why are we not going with this one? Because we already found out that this is what the heart should look like when it's unfolded. This is facing the wrong way. Okay, so it can't be E. Again, same with this, it can't be A, that's not a reflection across the line. And B is just completely wrong in terms of the way it's unfolding. Alright, and D as well. So you're left with option C. Alright.